For most people, ancient China feels like a world sealed off from the rest of humanity. A land of emperors, scholars, and dynasties, developing in isolation behind mountains and seas. But the truth is far more complex and far more fascinating, because hidden throughout China's imperial records, art, and archaeology is a surprising story. Africans were present in Imperial China, traveling across vast oceans long before modern globalization. This story begins not in China, but along the shores of East Africa, where merchants and sailors from the Swahili coast mastered one of the most powerful natural forces in the ancient world, the monsoon winds. These winds carried their wooden ships north toward Arabia and India, and then eastward toward Southeast Asia and China. Long before European empires crossed the oceans, African, Arab, and Asian sailors had already built a global trade network, connecting the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the South China Sea. Ivory, spices, ambergris, and exotic animals traveled along these routes, and with them traveled people. Chinese records from the Tang dynasty describe dark-skinned foreigners they called Kunlun. The term didn't refer to race the way modern categories do, but it included a wide range of peoples from distant lands: Southeast Asians, South Asians, and at times Africans who arrived via long-distance maritime routes. In Tang stories and poems, the Kunlun were described as superb sailors and fearless divers. One famous tale, The Kunlan Slave, portrays its African or Southeast Asian protagonist as swift, strong, and capable of extraordinary feats. Literature like this reveals not only curiosity, but a deep awareness of people from far beyond China's borders. By the Song dynasty, China's coastal cities had transformed into global ports. Guangzhou, Chonzhou, and Hangzhou swarmed with foreign merchants, sailors, and travelers. Archaeologists have uncovered African ivory, beads, and coins in these cities, tangible evidence that African goods were flowing steadily into China. Some traders stayed for months, others for years. Foreign communities formed their own neighborhoods, living alongside Chinese locals, worshipping in their own temples, and contributing to the pulse of the port cities. Among them were sailors and merchants whose origins reached as far as Somalia, Ethiopia, and the Swahili coast. But the most powerful connection came centuries later. During the Ming dynasty, under the command of one man, Admiral Zheng He led 7 enormous expeditions across the Indian Ocean, commanding fleets so large they dwarfed anything Europe had built at the time. His ships reached East Africa multiple times, visiting Mogadishu, Mombasa, Malindi, and beyond. From these voyages came stories that amazed the Chinese court: tall Africans who greeted the fleet with diplomacy, carved ivory of unmatched beauty, and animals never seen before in China. When Zhang He brought a giraffe back to the emperor, the court erupted in astonishment. Scholars believed it was the mythical Qilin, a creature of good fortune. Yet these voyages brought back more than treasures, they brought back people. African envoys, attendants, and sailors traveled with the fleet to China, entering imperial records as part of diplomatic exchanges. Some stayed only briefly, others lived for extended periods within the empire, appearing in paintings as attendants or foreign dignitaries. Their presence wasn't vast in number, but it was significant. It symbolized a world already linked by oceans, diplomacy, and curiosity, and China noticed. Throughout the Tangs, Yuan, and Ming dynasties, Chinese artists depicted foreign visitors with African features: broad noses, curly hair, dark skin painted in vibrant colors, and dignified attire. These weren't caricatures. They were portraits of real people who had journeyed across continents. Their presence enriched Chinese understanding of the wider world and reflected the empire's position. In a global network, Africans in Imperial China were not a massive population, but they were sailors, diplomats, warriors, merchants, and sometimes servants brought through maritime routes. Their lives intersected with Chinese culture in small but meaningful ways. They proved that China's ancient world wasn't closed or isolated. It was interactive, receptive, and global long before the modern age. This forgotten chapter of history reveals something profound. The world has always been connected. Oceans weren't barriers, they were bridges. And far across those waters, long before maps were accurate or borders were fixed, Africans and Chinese crossed paths, traded goods, exchanged ideas, and briefly shared lives. It's a reminder that history is never as simple as it seems. Behind the great walls, golden palaces, and Imperial chronicles lies a hidden network of human movement people who dared to travel beyond the horizon, shaping civilizations in ways still felt today.